Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second in a series of webinars we are hosting on UK nationality through former UK colonies and territories. Today, we will be discussing links to British nationality via Swaziland. Just some housekeeping. We will be holding a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. On the right-hand side of your screen, there's a chat box. What we have there is just a brief idea of how you should present your question and just the detail that you need to list in order for us to give you a more accurate answer. On the top right of your screen, you'll see there are two small arrows that point away from each other. You're able to expand your screen to make it full screen or minimize it. Then there's also a plus and minus button in the middle of between the presentation and the tab on top. That will minimize the video of the presenters if you'd like to make the presentation bigger. Just to give you a little bit of background on Sable International, for those of you that don't know, we have been in operation since 1995, and we have offices in the UK, South Africa, Australia, and we have a presence in Portugal. We have 4 core services that we specialize in, and we believe that these 4 core services encompass vital aspects of our clients' needs that they have when investing offshore or moving abroad. Those 4 core services are citizenship, immigration, and residency by investment, foreign exchange, offshore wealth management, and cross-border tax and accounting. The presenters for today, my name is John Dunn. I'm the Sales Director of Sable International. We have Philip Gamble. Philip trained with the Home Office within their Citizenship Directorate until 1992 and is widely regarded as the foremost authority on the world on British nationality law and the effects of decolonization within the former British Empire. We then have Michelle Patel. Michelle was born in Mombasa, Kenya, and relocated to the UK in 2004. Michelle joined Sable International in 2009 and is a registered OIC specialist, and he specializes in isolating claims to British nationality for those who have connections to former British territories. I will hand you over to Phil and Michelle now to start the presentation.
Okay, welcome everyone. As you've heard, my name's Philip Gamble, and I've been looking at this type of citizenship work for the last 30 odd years. I'm going to start off by giving us a brief on how claims to citizenship work by descent or by connection to former British territories. So effectively, we run an analysis on your family tree and compare your ancestors' dates of birth to pieces of key legislation which are in force at those key dates. So this might be the birth of an ancestor or marriage of parents or grandparents. The slide you're looking at the moment is specific to Swaziland, and it gives the status of Swaziland for British nationality purposes over the course of its time as a British territory and later as an independent Commonwealth country. So you can see various statuses there. At one stage, it's termed as being within the Crown's dominions. That's effectively what you would know as a colony in more common terms. Then you've got a period as a British protectorate, a British protected state, and then finally its status today as an independent Commonwealth country. Below that, you've got key dates in terms of our British nationality law. British Nationality Act 1948, Independence Act for Swaziland in 68, and modern day British citizenship from the post-1983 period onwards. So when we look at your ancestors, we'll be looking to see what type of British nationality they may have acquired in the past from a birth in one of these territories, Swaziland being one. We then go on to look at whether that status, as per the law at the time, allowed it to be passed by descent for descendants born in other countries like South Africa. Where there has been a form of British colonial nationality issued, we then have to look at the other legislation which affects it, which is predominantly independence arrangements, to see if that form of UK nationality has survived the independence arrangements for the territories concerned. And if there's any residual form of British nationality left over at the end of that process, we can bring that forward to the modern day and have British passports issued to the people who qualify. So the key things are looking at what an ancestor acquired, then looking at whether that status has been removed, and then bringing that forward to the present day. And that whole process we call a status trace. So it's looking at the status of your family over the course of time, in line with historic legislation in the past. So if we move on to the next slide, you're going to see some practical examples of how this works now. So most basic of principles, birth in a British territory, looking at an applicant born in Swaziland before independence. Now, just before independence, as you saw from the previous slide, Swaziland was a British protectorate and later a protected state in its final year. Those born in British protectorates and protected states acquired a different form of UK nationality from the usual, which is just simply called having the status of a British protected person. If you're a British protected person in the modern day, you're going to get a British passport in exactly the same way as someone who's a British citizen by birth in the UK. So it's a different form of British nationality. There's actually 6 in force as we speak, and they're all relative to the territory concerned. And so, as you can see, the British like to make these things quite complicated, and it's just simply a reflection of how many territories that have been held in the past and their different statuses at that time. So we know that being born in a protectorate gives the status of a British protected person in the period before independence in Swaziland. But before you can determine whether you have any sort of claim, you then have to look at the independence arrangements to see whether that status has survived or not. And there are exemptions to what we call the automatic loss of British nationality that come in, as you'll see through the later slides. It's a very important point, this automatic loss, because as you can probably see, if you're just born in Swaziland before independence, that would theoretically mean that every person born in that territory at that time would have a right to come into the UK, which is obviously not the case. So these independence arrangements are there and designed to firstly reduce the numbers of people who qualify by showing that they have connections to other places that have remained British, or in some cases through women who are married to men who have a different or alternative connection to the UK or other colonies. So that's citizenship by birth in a nutshell. The next most obvious example would be citizenship by descent from a father born in a British territory. So this is simply a general regulation. Generally speaking, those who hold the status of a British protected person can pass that citizenship down one generation by descent, subject to a number of other limiting rules, which we really have to take on a case-by-case basis. So this example again would be someone who could potentially have a claim to citizenship by having a father born in Swaziland, but again, you have to take into account the independence arrangements before you can decide whether any claim exists. Going on from there, the next type of typical claim that we see from people connected to Swaziland is where the applicant or indeed a parent has been registered British by birth in that territory. Now, most people would think of places like South Africa as former British colonies, but they held a different status in law. They were actually self-governing territories within the British Empire. So birth in South Africa, as most of you probably know, won't give rise to the claims of British citizenship now in the modern day, even if the birth took place many years in the past. This is because South Africa had its own citizenship, it was self-governing and was not a protectorate or a colony. So lots of people who were born in South Africa at various points in the past have moved to Swaziland for work, after those people have been there for 12 months or more, they then gained an entitlement to register British whilst the territory was still under British rule. And this just took 12 months of residency in those places. So a popular claim that I see from Swaziland relates to what an action that a parent's taken in the past, simply just by being resident there. Now, before I hand you over to my colleague Michelle, I just want to talk about the independence arrangements for Swaziland, which are an important aspect of this. So, generally speaking, when a territory became independent, the UK used a two-point calculation as to whether the person retained British nationality or not. You firstly have to look at whether the person acquired the citizenship of the newly independent country. So that would be, in this case, the acquisition of Swazi citizenship under their independence constitution. And secondly, whether that person has any connection to the UK or a place which remains a colony after independence of Swaziland. So a very obvious exemption to automatic loss of British nationality will be where the applicant's born in Swaziland, but the paternal grandfather's born in the UK. He's got a male line link to the UK, which is still a British territory, of course, after independence of Swaziland. So that person would have a straightforward exemption to automatic loss. So we talked about citizenship in the first generation. The next few slides are going to deal with citizenship in the second generation by descent. So what happens if you've got a grandparent born in the UK and you've got a connection to Swaziland? And at this point, I hand over to Michelle, who's going to talk you through those solutions.
Hi guys, hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. I know in some places it could be quite late, so we'll keep this to the point. The next slide. So as Phil just mentioned, I'm going to be going through the slides, the next 3 slides, and these slides will mainly concentrate on double descent claims. So with the double descent claims, you, unlike the previous slides where you had the parent actually being born in a place that was part of the UK, here you've got a grandfather in the top one there being born in the UK with the parent being born in Swaziland, and the applicant actually not being born in Swaziland, but being born before 1983 at the least. So here in this type of scenario, you do need a legitimate sort of male line connection to the UK, so the paternal grandfather, parent, and applicant all need to be born in a legitimate succession. And where you do have this, you have a citizenship of the United Kingdom and colonies sort of coming through right from the grandfather to the main applicant. And in the modern day, such a person could either be a British overseas citizen or in this case, a British citizen. So that is where you have a claim coming to 2 generations, where actually it's the grandfather was actually born in the UK. Now, the one right at the bottom, so the next example right at the bottom of that, you'll see the main difference between this one is where the applicant themselves were born in Swaziland, but the paternal grandfather was born in the UK. So Phil touched on how such a person, although being born in Swaziland, would normally be subject to the automatic loss of their British nationality. But in this case, they have the exemption, and the exemption really comes from that grandfather being born in the UK. And as you can tell, it is important for that exemption to come from the grandfather, because that's how the exemption rules work. It really needs a mainline connection to the UK. Not only that, you also need to prove your legitimate mainline connection to the UK. So it really cannot work when someone's born out of wedlock, although there are some recent provisions that have come to combat that discrimination, which we won't go into too much detail now. But here you have 2 main examples we see usually every now and then that lead to British citizenship in 2 generations. So moving on to the next slide. So here we have an example where we don't have a UK-born grandparent. So not every one of our clients that has a claim with the Swaziland connection have a UK-born grandparent, and this is a good example of such a scenario. So, like Phil mentioned before, you need to prove that you have a connection to a place, either being the UK or a place that remained part of the UK on independence of Swaziland. So here you have an applicant being born in Swaziland, but they don't lose their British nationality because they have a paternal grandfather born in Seychelles. And Seychelles was actually independent, I believe, in 1976. So that's when they gained their independence, whereas Swaziland was before that in 68. So in this type of scenario, you do have a paternal grandfather's birth in Seychelles, providing the exemption for the applicant in the modern day to not lose their British nationality and be able to claim it. In this specific scenario, the applicant could claim what we call a British overseas passport in the modern day. And if they had the right of abode from another part of their family tree, perhaps a maternal grandfather being born in the UK, then they would be treated as a full British citizen in the modern day. So a good example of why you could have a claim even though you might not have a UK-born grandparent or paternal grandfather. So quickly moving on to the next slide. So this is really specifically for a woman or for females that are born in Swaziland before independence. They don't necessarily have a UK-born grandparent or a grandfather that's born in, say, Seychelles, as we saw in the previous slide. But what they do have is their marriage took place before independence of Swaziland to a gentleman who himself doesn't lose his British nationality on independence of Swaziland. So in a classic scenario, the husband would be perhaps a person born in South Africa with his own father born in the UK. They got married before 1968 or before independence of Swaziland. And although in all other circumstances, the woman would be subject to the automatic loss of her British nationality on independence of Swaziland, in this case, she wouldn't be, because her husband doesn't suffer that automatic loss himself. So here you have a marriage specifically taking place before independence of Swaziland, leading for that person to retain their British nationality on independence of Swaziland. In the modern day, you would expect such a person to actually be a full British citizen. So we do come across these so rare examples where actually it only applies specifically to men, but not the other way around. Specifically for women, sorry, not the other way around. And last slide here, I believe, is actually something that we've had a lot of a win on in the last sort of 6 to 7 years, Crown Service. And here you have two sets of examples, one applicant born before 1st of January 1983 and one born after. So we'll go into the one that's born before. So here you have a grandparent born in the UK where the parent's born in Swaziland, but the applicant is born before 1983. In this type of scenario where the parent is in Crown Service at the time the applicant was born, that nationality also passes on a further generation. So just because of the Crown Service performed, you would have that citizenship of the United Kingdom and colonies going a further generation by descent. In the modern day, you would expect that applicant to also hold a full British passport. The scenario at the bottom where you have an applicant born after 1983 is slightly more complicated because it requires the relevant grandfather to be in Crown Service at the time the parent was born. I've come across this once where the relevant grandfather was working for, I believe, the Royal Swazi Police, and at the time of the parent's birth, and it led to that parent being classified as British other than by descent, hence allowing that parent to pass on their British citizenship to the applicant who happens to be born anywhere out of the UK after 1st of January 1983. The complicated thing with the Royal Swazi Police Force and proving that this forms part of the definition of Crown Service is that you have to show that that paternal grandfather or maternal grandfather was recruited in the UK for that service. So that is often the challenge, but it does work, and that's why we do see these claims sort of, although rare from Swaziland, we do see them come up often, and so on. So I think that's all I have to say on sort of the double descent claims generating from those originating or connected to Swaziland. I'll pass on the next set of slides to my colleague John, who will talk to you about how you can take these claims forward if you think you fit in any of these scenarios. Thank you very much for listening. John?
Okay, John, I think we've lost your audio there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's better.
Thank you, John.
Apologies for that. What most of you are wondering is do I have a claim to British nationality? I see quite a few of the questions coming through. Again, if you post a question, if you can try keep the format before posting the question is your place and date of birth, your parents' place and date of birth, and your grandparents' place and date of birth. It'll avoid us having to go back and forth asking questions for it and just give you a nice detailed answer. But thank you for posting those questions. Keep them coming. So how do I know if I have a claim to British nationality? What we recommend for majority of our clients to do is to go onto our website and do our free online assessment. That online assessment is quick and easy. It asks you for the basic details we're asking you on the question. So it's your grandparents and your parents' places and dates of birth. That information will give our specialists a insight into whether you think you should continue to investigate whether you have a claim to British nationality. Once you have completed the assessment and built the family tree, we ask you then to order what we call a free British passport review. This review, once you've looked at information, will give you 5 results. One will be definite, which is you have a direct claim for citizenship and you can go straight to an application. One is likely. We see it's a good chance, 90 to 95% chance that you have a claim to citizenship, but we need to look into it a little bit more and get more detail and then move on to an application. Then you will get a possible answer of unclear or unlikely. In those instances, we generally need more information from you to give you a more accurate answer. And we can do, if you don't want to go straight to the status trace, we do have an option for a phone consultation. And what the aim of that phone consultation is to get some of that information from you. And then you will have one of 2 outcomes. One will be, we'll move you into a likely answer, and we can go through to the status trace and move to a claim, or the answer will be remote. We've realized there's no claim and the chances are quite slim that you have a route to citizenship. Or finally, if through the assessment we may find that you get an automatic remote answer where we feel that there's no chance or very low chance of obtaining citizenship, you are welcome to go through the trace process, but in those instances, we're fairly sure that the chances are quite low. Then status trace. So once we've moved you into a likely category or you've decided to go ahead with the status trace, then what we do is this is where specialist researches the applicable law that was in place at the time of each of your family members' birth. That status trace will then give us a basis for, it's a multi-page report that gives our opinion to your rights on British nationality and forms the basis of an application for British nationality at a later stage. At some of the status traces, even through likely, we find some scenarios where it then turns out that you do not have a claim to citizenship. So again, it'll have 2 results. One, you'll move forward to a citizenship application, or you'll have no claim, and we'll let you know. That status trace does have it will give you feedback on the UK visa options like the ancestry visa, spousal visa, other nationalities, or any claims to EU nationalities. And it gives you a very nice detailed report on all of those at the end of the process. Okay, on to the Q&A. Jenny was born in South Africa in 1980. Let me just get that date right. Yep, in 1986. Her mother was born in Swaziland, father in South Africa. Paternal grandmother, she says possibly Scotland. She's just waiting for confirmation. And then the rest of the grandparents were born in South Africa.
Should I take that one?
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead for them.
Good. So, Jenny, hey, thanks for posting that question. That's a very interesting family tree. So, unfortunately, here you got, if it is indeed your paternal grandmother born in the UK, it really would just be an advantage for your dad in the modern day. It wouldn't you wouldn't be able to claim it through your dad, even if your dad was to register as a British citizen through his mum's birth in the UK. So, although important, it won't lead to a claim for you. Now, in terms of your mum's birth in Swaziland, that's probably a little bit closer in terms of a connection to UK territory. And realistically, even if your mum was a British citizen in the modern day through a connection to Swaziland, she wouldn't be able to pass it on to you in most cases, because she would probably be what's classified as a British citizen by descent. Now, these are two types of British citizens, although you wouldn't say that on any British passport, but they are British citizens by descent and those who are classified other than by descent. Now, the ones that are classified by descent can't pass it on a further generation born out of the UK, whereas the ones that are classified other than by descent can. So with what I would probably want to say is I don't think you would have a claim through those connections yourself, although you would have obviously a chance to move into the UK on a UK ancestry visa, which John's team can bring you up to speed on. Regarding your mom, I would say that if she was interested, she should look at it, because if her birth took place in Swaziland and if she has a UK-born grandparent, then she could have a claim for herself in the modern day. All right, so I'm sorry about that.
Then the next question comes from Wendy, born in 1952 in South Africa. Both parents born in South Africa, and then paternal grandmother born in the UK.
Okay, so I think I'll answer that one. So, John, did you say Wendy was born in South Africa or Swaziland?
South Africa.
In South Africa. So there's no connection to Swaziland here. It's just simply South Africa and paternal grandmother
Yes.
being born in the UK. Yep. Okay. Well, if that's the case, rather like the last example, although there's a claim at the moment to a UK ancestry visa, so settlement over here certainly possible, it doesn't look likely in terms of a claim to UK citizenship. If the paternal grandfather was also born in the UK, there could be some scope here, providing Wendy's parents were born before 1949, married before 1949, through an anomaly in the rules to combat gender discrimination. Otherwise, no, I can't see a claim that would be possible there in any way. The problem with South Africa being in terms of being a self-governing territory within the UK empire was it wasn't favourable in terms of citizenship as such. South Africa had its own citizenship from 1949 onwards. Before that time, everyone born in South Africa was a British subject, but they were converted into being South African citizens in 1949. So they're treated in a slightly different way to those that are born in places that remained protectorates and colonies right up until the 1960s. So, Wendy, I'm afraid it's just the UK ancestry visa only on this one.
Phil, I see Wendy has corrected me and says Swaziland in 1952 is when she was born.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
I thought that was a little odd for a Swaziland seminar. Yeah, okay. Let's see how that changes things.
My apologies, Wendy.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, pretty much the same thing applies. I mean, certainly if your paternal grandfather was born in the UK or another British colony, like Kenya, for example, those sort of places, and there could be a claim here. Again, on the mother side of the family, if your maternal grandfather was born in the UK or a former colony like Kenya, then, or indeed Lesotho being a little bit more local, then you could potentially have a claim. But otherwise, we're back to the UK ancestry visa again on that one.
Okay. We will move on to Trevor, who was born in South Africa. His mother was born in Swaziland. I'm just going to confirm dates, but then his father was born in South Africa, and all 4 grandparents were born in the UK.
Okay. So I think we would probably need Trevor's date of birth as
Trevor's mom was
one of the most.
1925.
Okay, so he's going to be before 19.
Yep. And he was born in 1966. And his father was born in 1930.
Okay. I think I can answer this one. So it's obviously looking, I would say, good for Trevor, because he actually would fit in one of the slides that I actually talked about, my first slide that I mentioned to you guys, where you have that middle generation born in Swaziland with the relevant grandfather, or Trevor's grandfather, born in the UK. So I would say much like what we had an example earlier when we started the Q&A, where we had that gender discrimination for those born before 1983, not allowing them to claim their mother's nationality, which has now been addressed. And if you can prove that had the law been gender equal when Trevor was born, he would be a British citizen in the modern day, then he would have a claim to register as a British citizen under these sort of new laws. So I would say Trevor's case is actually quite likely for a registration through his mum. And actually, he would be what we dub as a double descent qualifier through his mom's connection to Swaziland. So I would definitely encourage him to take this up with us and see it through properly, because I can definitely see that working for him.
Okay, good.
So yeah, good news there.
Sounds positive, Trevor. Please get in touch with us. Then it looks like another good news is Clive. He was born in Swaziland. I will confirm the date. His mother was born in Swaziland, and her father was born in the UK. He was born in Swaziland in 1960.
Yeah, again, exactly the same principle applies. So although there was no claim initially in the female line since 2002, and thereafter it's been possible for persons in Clive's position to register as British citizens through a formal application in the UK. So the mother becomes a citizen of the UK and colonies by descent in the first generation, and because Clive's born in a qualifying territory, being a British protectorate, he then has a claim to British nationality there in the mother's side only. Can I just confirm on the father's side, is there anything there as well?
I'll have a look now. Sorry, I was going to find Clive's information. Father born in South Africa. Clive hasn't posted details about his paternal grandparents. Clive, if you can, give us some information, please. And then we'll go.
Okay. So subject to a few other checks, then that one's worth pursuing, I would say. Certainly for the BPR and going forward from there.
Okay. So, yeah, Clive, if you can give us that detail and or do the assessment for us, we will be able to give you an answer. Then a question from Lawrence. He was born in South Africa in 1968. His mother was born in Swaziland, and both his grandparents were born in Swaziland. Just want to see if there are dates. There we go. So mother born 1935, and he was born in 1968.
Okay, John. So did you say, just to confirm again, that his grandparents, or is that his mother's parents who were both born in Swaziland?
His maternal grandparents were born in Swaziland, and his paternal grandparents were born in South Africa.
In SA. Okay, fine. Okay, so for Lawrence, I'm afraid it's not great news there. I'm afraid, Lawrence, because although you have your maternal grandparents and your mother born in obviously the former protectorate of Swaziland there, but the issue here is most likely your mother or her parents suffered the automatic loss of their British nationality, and even if they were British at the time that you were born, to have a claim to the female line in the modern day, you would ideally need to show that you can also not just claim your mother's nationality, but also claim what we call the right of abode, in order to register as a British citizen through the maternal line. And you would only have that if, in most cases, we see people having that where they have a UK-born grandparent, ideally a grandfather born in the UK. And that's not the case here with you. So I would probably say it wouldn't be worth pursuing here, because the answer will probably be no in terms of an immediate claim. So that's what my overall feeling of that one is, Lawrence, I'm afraid.
Okay. Then we have Timothy, who was born in Swaziland in 56. His mother and father were born in South Africa but moved to Swaziland. Both his grandmothers, so maternal and paternal, were born in the UK. And both his grandfathers were from South Africa.
Okay, so the rationale on this one is that Tim would have been a British protected person at the point of his birth in the Swaziland protectorate. However, in the absence of a paternal grandfather or a maternal grandfather born in the UK, then he's not going to have a claim at the moment. I should probably say that the provisions to address gender discrimination in the nationality law have only extended to the first generation by descent, not in the second generation. So there's no remedy at the moment for those that have got grandmothers born in the UK, only grandfathers. So you can claim through the female line in the first generation by descent only. So what that means in practical terms here is, although Tim was a British protected person in 1956, when independence has come, he's lost that status because he doesn't have a male line linked to the UK, which gives him the exemption from the automatic loss of British nationality at that point. So Tim qualifies for an ancestry visa, but at the moment there's no claim to UK citizenship. We are challenging the British government on this because we think it's wrong that you can have a claim if your maternal grandfather's born in the UK but not your grandmother. And it doesn't seem quite fair that it stopped just with the first generation, when clearly other claims in the second generation do exist. Should be open and fair for everyone. The UK government don't share our view on this. They very rarely do unless someone challenges them and takes the matter before the courts to have a look at in terms of the whole issue of gender discrimination and human rights, which is what we're going to be working on in the next few years. So Tim, just to recap, I'm afraid it's a UK ancestry visa only on this one.
So Tim, just another point is, if you do our assessment or create a profile on either the Sable International or What Passport platform, if there's any changes, or we continue to fight this good fight and there is a change and you are eligible, we will then send out alerts and we will notify you that there is a change and you should get in contact with us. We have hundreds of or thousands of rules that go in place, and anytime there's changes, we try to update as quickly as possible for those people. Then I have there's still questions coming through. I have a question from Caroline. Caroline was born in Swaziland in 1962. Her father was born in Swaziland in 1930, mother in South Africa in 1927. Her paternal grandfather was born in India in 1896. Her paternal grandmother was born in Scotland. Her maternal grandfather was born in South Africa in 1895, and her maternal grandmother was born in England.
Wow, that's a bit of a different tree, isn't there? That's quite interesting, actually. I'll probably need a little bit more details. I wonder if she knew where her paternal great grandfather was born, because would you believe if you know, if that happened to be the UK, may change things. But so far with what we've been told, what would end up happening here is that although, Caroline, just like the previous example, would be a British protected person just by virtue of her birth in Swaziland, come independence, she still needs that exemption from preventing her from automatically losing her nationality. And that exemption would only come in where you have a paternal grandfather born in a place that remained part of the UK or the UK on independence of Swaziland. So I'm afraid, even though we have so many connections to previous UK territories, we've got India, we've got South Africa, we've got Swaziland, I can't see an immediate claim, although as per the previous example, Caroline would have access to the UK ancestry visa, allowing her to work and settle in the UK. So interesting family tree, but I can't see an immediate claim, Caroline, I'm afraid.
Okay. Then Brian, born in Swaziland in 65. His mother was born in Swaziland, father in South Africa, and his paternal grandfather was born in Natal in 1875. Brian hasn't given me information on his other grandparents, so we'll go with that for now. Brian, you can post the information if you'd have it.
Okay, I mean, I think probably what Brian's driving at here is maybe the grandfather's birth in Natal, or the Natal colony it was at the time, might have some significance here. Unfortunately, it doesn't. The fact that Natal was a colony, one of the original South African colonies at the point when the grandfather was born, is not the same in this occasion of having an ancestor born in a former British colony. So by the word, when we say former British colony, we mean a place which remained a colony up until independence in the usually the 1950s or the 1960s, not a place which formed part of a place that was then a self-governing territory within the empire from 1910, as was the case in South Africa. So I think that's why it might have been thought that this might be a slightly different type of case. But it's not. If there's any other grandparents born in the UK, then there may be a claim to UK ancestry visa or something better. But based on that information there alone, that would be an unlikely if we were doing a passport review. So it's not looking too hopeful, I'm afraid, Brian, there.
Okay. Brian did confirm that his parents, his mother's side, were all Swazi. So that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not going to help. So Brian would have been, again, a British protected person originally at birth, but the lack of connection in the male line to a place that's either a former colony in the sense that we just described, or the UK, means that he would have lost that status with the independence arrangements.
Okay. Gail was born in 1958 in Swaziland. Both of her parents were born in SA, and her paternal grandmother was born in the UK.
Yeah, so we're assuming in terms of Gail's rest of her grandparents are probably South Africa. I guess she hasn't mentioned it, has she yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, yeah. So for Gail, again, British protected person at birth. If she does have a grandfather, paternal grandfather, maternal grandfather born in the UK, then I think absolutely yes, she should in fact get in touch with us, and because we would want to look into that and confirm that she has a likely claim to British citizenship and how she can take that forward. But with just her grandmother's connection to the UK, her paternal grandmother's connection to the UK, that itself has not been fixed, as Phil just pointed out just moments earlier, where the UK government are not allowing claims down that line. They're not going to take that as an exemption to the automatic loss of Gail's British nationality and the independence of Swaziland. So if it's just the UK-born grandmother, then it's not looking too good. And you have the access to the ancestry visa, of course. But if you have a maternal or paternal grandfather born in the UK, then it's looking much better, and you've probably got a good chance of claiming a British citizenship in the modern day. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll move on to Brent. Brent was born in 1974 in Swaziland. His mother was born in Swaziland. His maternal grandparents, he says here, had British citizenship by registration. And he says, my mother did, which my mother lost for some reason. And then father born in South Africa and both paternal grandparents born in the UK.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think we'd probably want to see what the nature of those registrations were, and look at the actual dates involved. Do we know where the maternal grandparents were born?
So Brent hasn't posted where the maternal grandparents were born, but perhaps.
And the date of birth of the mother would also be very useful there.
Okay. Brent, if you can post those answers. So, okay, so it was South Africa, and he is posting now for the date in 1949.
Okay, actually in 49, or
can
we be more specific on that?
You mean a month in 1949?
Yes, yeah.
Brent, if you can just post the month of your mom's birth. What would a key month be there, Phil?
Well, really anything after January is good here. So it's looking positive for, negative for him, I should say.
31 October.
So yeah. So I was my train of thought there was coming through that if the mother's birth had taken place before 1949 in Swaziland, with the maternal grandfather's birth in South Africa, that would have made the mother a citizen of the UK and colonies herself, in quite a beneficial way for Brent himself, and would have led to a claim. So that's not terribly helpful for him. On now, but the maternal grandparents are registered as citizens, so that could only have happened if it's a registration rather than a naturalization. That could have actually only happened after 1949. So the registrations aren't going to be of any use here either. Brent, on this occasion, I think unless we can see another way in which your mother could have become a citizen otherwise than by descent, which we got, well, I suppose potentially.
I think Brent was saying something about Phil, about his mother also being registered as a CKC. Do you think that would be possible for her to be registered as a CKC in Swaziland, living there? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, could have
born and living there. Yeah,
could have been. Could have been. It's there are a number of different registrations available at the time, so we really need to see what type of registration we've got here.
Yeah.
I think if you were coming through on the British passport review, we'd probably be asking for further information there before we could give you a definitive answer, and we'll probably want to have a look at that certificate of registration for your mother. If it is just your maternal grandparents, then I'm pretty certain that's not going to help. With the if it is a registration for your mother, though, that could be a different matter. So I think I'd urge you to get in touch, do a BPR, so we can determine that one properly for you. So that would be possibly what we'd have to say at this stage, is unclear. I think based on the information we've got.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's really depends on his mother's registration and where and how, or what type of registration it was, and if the registration was positive, then yeah, it could be really good news for you, Brent. So I would really encourage you to get in touch with us with that certificate for your mom.
Okay. Brent says thank you, and he will do. Sharon is asking on behalf of her daughters, born in South Africa in 1995 and 1992. Sharon was born in Swaziland. Her daughter's father was born in Northern Rhodesia. The paternal grandparents were born in the UK, and both the maternal grandparents were born in South Africa.
Okay. John,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I was just going to say, John, can you just clarify? You said the daughter's father was born in North Rhodesia, or Sharon's
No,
father?
sorry, the daughter. So Sharon's husband or partner.
Yeah. Yeah, so the father of the children they were born in 95 and 92,
Correct.
isn't it, John?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. It's quite interesting. Okay. Well, look, I think I want to probably start off with just probably saying that obviously the father would have been a British citizen at the time the children were born, saying that is just, probably by descent through his own father's birth in the UK. And realistically, any children that are now this age, even if the father had lived in the UK in the past, you couldn't register children over 18 based on the parents' previous UK residence. So we don't have that to rely on as an immediate thing that jumps out. Of course, it's important to know, and I think I covered that in one of my slides that I was explaining what the relevant grandfather, so the paternal grandfather, was doing in Northern Rhodesia at the time the children's father was born. Because if indeed he was in some sort of crown service, then those children could claim British citizenship through that grandfather's crown service. So I'll probably encourage Sharon to give us a little bit more details, perhaps not in this sort of setting, but get in touch with us and tell us if she knows what her father-in-law was doing at the time the children's father was born, basically. Regarding Sharon, if she was born in Swaziland before independence, again, she could have a claim if she's got a relevant grandfather born in the UK. So if that is something that she does, Sharon, you do have, if you're still on here, then again, get in touch with us.
Sharon was born in 1961, and
Yeah, so
both of her parents were born in South Africa.
Yeah. So if any of your grandfathers who were born in the UK, then that would help your scenario, but it probably would not extend on to your children. Your children's most likely the best claim they could get is through their father's side of the family, I would say.
Okay.
Cool.
Then we have the handle is Henwood. So he says he was born in Swaziland, and his father was born in South Africa, and his father's father was born in the UK.
Okay, Henwood, so I'm assuming you're born in Swaziland before independence.
12th of January 1971 is the date of birth for Henwood.
Okay. So it's actually after independence. In actual fact, anything on the mother's side?
He hasn't listed anything on the mother's side, so the assumption is no.
Okay, that's fine. Unfortunately, for double descent claims, there has to be either the applicant or the parent being born in Swaziland at the time when it was a protectorate or protected state. So the birth in Swaziland or independent Swaziland, if you like, isn't really going to help us here, Henwood, I'm afraid. And you're down to the UK ancestry visa only, as far as I can see there. The only exception to that would be potentially Crown service. So if your father was in service for the British government in some way at the point when you were born, then you could potentially have a claim. But outside of that, I'm afraid it's the ancestry visa only.
Okay. Henwood has posted a little bit more information. He says here his grandfather's death date. Oh, wait, he says he was in the British Army and his ship sunk on the way in the war on the 7th of March 1942.
So this is the grandfather,
Correct.
not the father.
The father was born in 1943.
Yeah. So 1943. Yeah, so unfortunately for Crown Service claims to come from the grandfather's Crown Service, that only applies to people born after 1983, not before. So at the time when you were born, Henwood, you can only claim if your father was in Crown Service at that time, not your grandfather. So as odd as it sounds, there's not likely to be a claim here.
Okay. Henwood has actually asked, what does an ancestry visa give you? I know that's not this platform. We can give you more information on that, but at Henwood, the ancestry visa will give you the right to live and work in the UK for 5 years, and that can lead to settlement at the end of that 5 years if you meet the criteria. You can get in touch with us. We can definitely give you more information on that, the costing, the timing, and how it all works. There's one more question I think we can field, and that is from Tanya. I'll just read the description because it's more around Tanya's father. She says, my dad was born in Swaziland in 1941. His father was born in the Transkei in 1886. And his grandfather was born in Scotland, no date. She says, my father has a British passport, but it says, would he be able to change his status from BOC to full British status? So I assume it's not a British passport, so he's got a BOC passport then. Can he upgrade that to full British status?
Yeah, okay, so father born in Swaziland in 41, I believe you said, John, and his dad born in Transkei, whereas the dad's dad, the paternal grandfather, born in Scotland. Yeah, I do think there's something that's got a little bit amiss here, perhaps, and you know, person like that, I would expect them to have a full British passport, not a British overseas passport. So perhaps there's a little investigation that needs to be done by looking at all the relevant documents and the laws to see why it is that it was issued a British overseas passport and not a full British passport. So it's not a matter of registering as a full British citizen, so upgrading it from British overseas to full British citizenship. It could just be that your dad has been given the wrong type of passport by the passport office, and you would think this doesn't happen, but it does actually happen quite repeatedly. And we have seen these type of issues come up in the last 5 to 10 years quite often. And so I would encourage you, Tanya, to sort of get in touch with us if you want to really get to the bottom of your dad's BOC status, because I do think he might have been issued that in error and he should actually have a full British passport, but we will not probably know that until we do a little bit of an in-depth sort of research into what's happened there. So yeah, get in touch with us and we'll see how that can help you and your dad.
Okay. I think that's all the time we have for questions. I see there are some questions still coming through. What we will do is we have your details. We can definitely try and get those answers to you. There will be a recording of this webinar, which will be sent to you. It will be available on our website as well. And if you still have further questions, please, you can email us on citizenship@sableinternational.com. You can call us. We do have a WhatsApp chat. If you want to send us a message or a number, we can then contact you and get in touch, and or do the assessment where our specialists will have a look and they will get in touch with the answer for you. I'd like to say thank you to Phil and Michelle for your time and the presentation. It was very informative, and thank you for all of you that have attended and all the questions that you posted. It's always nice to see the different family trees and different responses that we get. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.